On the FlashForge Adventurer 3, sometimes the filament will get jammed. I'm going to show you how to clear a jammed nozzle tip. So the first thing I like to do, I like to hit, if basically it's printing in the air, nothing is coming out, but there's still filament on the roll, it's very likely either that the filament broke off, sometime either right here where the drive motor is, or there's maybe a clog inside here. So if you've checked the filament, I like to go to change, and then I go ahead and let it preheat just like you would do for the normal changing filament process, and it's going to pull itself out and start to unwind, and then you just try to rewind it back onto the spool. If, however, it doesn't start unspooling, I'm going to show you how to actually detach, then cut the filament, and then manually remove it. Okay, so the filament is starting to wrap around itself, so I'm just over here just going to re-spool it. Sometimes, once again, it may not come out and it may just start spinning and clicking and not going anywhere. If that's the case, it's not the end of the world, no big deal. But what you'll do, you're going to have to pop this cover off. You don't be afraid about breaking it. The worst thing you could possibly do, or probably do, is end up pulling out this little ribbon, but you can always replace that. So with the door open, I like to stand to the side, I kind of make my fingers like this, and don't be afraid to hit straight up. So it's got these little tabs that are going to kind of lock it in place. This will allow you to access the top portion of the head. You're going to have to end up pushing down right here on this little kind of circular tab here. You push that down, and then you can pull the Bowden tube up. Now typically, if it's jammed, you'll have filament that's sticking out here that either needs to be cut or just pulled out with a pair of pliers. Then my next step, if it's experienced a jam where it just wasn't printing, I use this little guy here to help to push any excess filament out. So I just kind of drive it in while it's still hot. See that? Even though all that filament just got pushed out. And now it's mostly cleared, and I can clear it here. I've also got these little kind of like hypodermic needles right here. These little guys are really, really good if there's a severe jam. Sometimes you'll have to use these things, almost like acupuncture needles, and then these can come in from the top or the bottom, and then you just feed them through. And these are so small that they can get into the tiny tip of that nozzle. So coming in from the top, or you feed it in directly from the bottom right there. So once you get it in, you just get it cleared out, and then I typically will replace it. Make sure you keep the little lid back on so these don't go anywhere. And I store them back in the tools. The Bowden tube plugs straight back in. I can get this guy ready to go back on here. Just gonna pop it back into place. And now it's time to reload the filament. So I check my spool, make sure that it doesn't get crisscrossed, because if you get them tangled crisscrossed, then you're very likely to get the filament where it's going to get stuck and it's going to cause a break or a jam. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it back in. And it's feeding the filament back. And if you've gotten out of that step, then you just go to the load filament and it'll work. Okay, get my spool nice and in line, and that's it. And then I'll just double check to make sure that the filament does come out. I'm going to hit load to expedite the process. And there it goes. And now we got filament coming out. So we know that that it is clear, and we're good. Hit OK. That's it. That's how you clear a clogged nozzle.